Lethal injection in the United States is becoming a hot-button issue as more attention is placed on the drugs being used to execute prisoners. Montana's lethal injection protocol is currently tied up in litigation following a lawsuit filed by the two men who sit on death row. As MTN's Beth Sabo reports, this case is a matter of life or death.
For both of these individuals, everything hinges on this case.
Ron Waterman has been waging war over Montana's lethal injection protocol for the last 7 years. He represents Ronald Allen Smith and William J. Gallahan in their lawsuit against the state, which argues that its method of execution is unconstitutional. It's a topic he's spent over 2 decades becoming an expert on, as this isn't the first time he's represented a man on death row. His client, Duncan McKenzie, was executed in 1995.
I was in the execution chamber with him at the time of his death. I had been, I think, morally opposed to the death penalty beforehand, but became involved with that execution. I was the lead attorney on asking for clemency from the governor, and then when the clemency efforts failed, I stayed with that client until the time of his execution.
The legal challenge by Smith and Gallahan has basically put Montana's ability to impose the death penalty on life support. The case hinges on whether or not pentobarbital, one of the drugs in the state's 2-drug protocol, is ultra-fast acting. Montana statute requires an ultra-fast acting drug be administered first to induce unconsciousness.
If you don't administer an effective drug to bring about a death, then the paralytic agent will actually cause an individual to suffocate. The state still does not have anyone who is willing to say that pentobarbital is an ultra-fast acting barbiturate.
If the court rules in favor of the prisoners, as Waterman thinks it will, the state will have to again revise its method of lethal injection. But Waterman hopes lawmakers would instead consider doing away with the death penalty altogether.
In Montana, we had a hanging execution in 1945. We then went 50 years before we had another execution with Duncan McKenzie. And then since then, we've had only 2 other executions. Both of those individuals were volunteers. That is, they instructed their lawyers to stop all appeals, and they said to the state, you can put me to death. So we've rarely used the death penalty. Not taking it off the books doesn't affect the criminal justice function at all. It just removes something that's cruel and unusual.
A hearing in the case is set for July. We sought comment from the Montana State Prison and traveled to Helena to speak with the Department of Corrections. Both agencies referred us to the Attorney General's office, where a spokesman said Tim Fox would not comment on pending litigation. In Bozeman, Beth Sabo, MTN News.
Other states like Utah that don't have access to lethal injection have been forced to find alternatives, like bringing back the firing squad. Here in Montana, there is no backup method of execution.